Good afternoon, Realtors. Welcome to your SCR Live Update. It is Tuesday, May the 14th. This is not our regular time or our regular day. The Washington, D.C. meetings of the National Association of Realtors last week kind of threw us off our schedule. Last month, I hope you enjoyed all of the fair housing updates and podcasts brought by our legal staff, and many thanks to Tiara Pitts for filling in for me for several of those updates. Great content. If you haven't seen them, I encourage you to go back and check them out. But I am your host, Nick Kremydas. Glad to be with you today and back here in the SCR offices. We have been on the road quite a bit over the last few weeks. As a matter of fact, since the commission's settlement was announced in March, we have had over 31 office visits, association meetings, Zoom calls with members all across the state, 5 town hall meetings. We've got another town hall meeting this week. Please register for it if you haven't attended or have new questions regarding the commission settlements. We've got a few new updates for you as well. So when you see that email in your inbox, please click the register button. Speaking of deadlines, before I forget, the deadline for signing up for NAR committees is coming up this week as well. That deadline is tomorrow. If you have any questions or need a recommendation, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to share my thoughts on the NAR committee process. It is important for South Carolina Realtors to have a voice, to have input on what's happening at our National Association. We are NAR. And the more South Carolina Realtors that we have serving in leadership positions, the more our voice is going to be heard, and the more we're going to help drive the future direction of NAR. So let's talk about a couple of things just as a quick recap. I've got a lot to cover, but I'm not going to be able to do it today. I'm going to save some of it for the town hall meeting and future updates. But last week, about 130 realtors from South Carolina attended the National Association's RLM, what we used to call the mid-year meetings in D.C. are now called the Realtor Legislative Meetings, and we got to go back to the Hill for the first time since before the pandemic. What a thrill. I've been, y'all know I've been to the Capitol many, many times in my career, and it still gives me a big thrill to walk the halls of Congress, meet with the elected officials, meet with their staff, and talk about things that are impacting your business right now, like VA loans and the prospective changes that may be required as a result of the national settlement, inventory issues, housing affordability issues, flood insurance. The list goes on. Our national team are the premier advocacy organization in Washington, D.C. for all things real estate, and it was a tremendous opportunity to have our voices heard at the Capitol last week. And my thanks to all of the realtors who took time away from their businesses and their families to represent South Carolina in Washington last week. Also last week, there was probably the shortest NAR Board of Directors meeting that I've ever attended for sure. It was right at an hour long. Normally those meetings are 4 and 5 hours long. The business that was conducted last week includes new MLS policies that were written in light of the commission settlements, to be in compliance with the commission settlements. You're going to be hearing a lot more from your local MLSs over the next few weeks as they digest these policy changes and adopt them. The deadline is coming soon. We now know that it is July 17th, which is going to be the deadline for implementing, August 17th. August 17th for the implementation of these new settlement changes. And in the MLS, Y'all know the two changes we're talking about, the elimination of the compensation field and the use of buyer agreements prior to showing homes as participants or members of the MLS. A couple of interesting legal updates that are related. Last week, the judge in the Burnett case, gave final approval to the first settlements that were reached by RE/MAX and Anywhere last summer. That's an important step to note because it also previews what's going to happen with these other settlements, including NAR's settlement, which is scheduled for a hearing in November. It was very matter-of-factly approved, despite you may have read some headlines that there was some third-party intervention attempted at the last minute. The judge didn't have any of that and gave prompt approval to those settlements, which bodes well for the approval, I believe, of these other settlements. One last thing today that I'll share with you, and just want to make sure I'm not missing anything here on my notes. But we ended the legislative session last week. In addition to being on the Hill in Washington, it was a big advocacy week for realtors all across the country. Please make sure that you are subscribed to our weekly newsletters and that you are watching and listening and reading Lindsay Jackson Hutto's legislative updates. Those are produced in-house by Mike. Mike, thanks for all your great work and production work and making us all look great. And Lindsay will have a full recap of the legislative session. And one of the bills that passed last week that will be on its way to the governor's desk has to do with the 40-year marketing agreements, getting rid of those in South Carolina once and for all. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, do a quick Google search for 40-year marketing agreements, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And I'll have a full update. Well, Lindsay will have a full update. I don't want to steal her thunder. She'll have a full update next week as soon as the legislature comes in, deals with vetoes, and some final budget issues. And that actually might not be next week, right, Mike? That might be the week after. So we'll stay tuned for those. And I think in the meantime, I've got, I think, my 8th Zoom call of the day to jump on here in just a few minutes. So with that, I'm going to let y'all get back to it. Thank you for your time and attention this afternoon. Realtors, stay safe, stay strong, and we'll be back in touch again real soon. Take care.